Hills lies a remote canyon where people have described having a strange encounters with an unknown creature, and the scenery of one of the most famous Bigfoot encounters recorded in recent history. For over the last century, it's been told. Join us now on the Cryptid Master KD channel as we dive into the terrifying story of the mountain devils and the ambush of Ape Canyon. Please subscribe. Now, it begins with a great theme. In July of 1924, a group of 5 men ventured their way into the remote canyon on a supposed expedition to find gold and do some panning for gold. And so they set up camp and they started mining their fortune. They started mining around midday. One of the men asked the lead of the group, Hank, if complaining about a toothache, and asked him politely to take him to the nearby dentist. But Hank strictly says here, neither God nor the devil will take me away from this place. And while these men have been out in the woods their entire lives, they've known the nearby canyons and all its dangers, but nothing could have prepared them for what would happen that night. It all started with little things. One night, as the men would retire into their cabin, then for the night, they would hear strange sounds like knocking and howling. Now, these were strong men who had been in the woods there and known many sounds of the night. But they described these sounds as whooping and howling through the night. One miner says that he's heard like a thumping on his chest on a creature making that noise. The next morning, the men find tracks that they couldn't explain. At first, they just thought they were bear tracks, but Hank comes to the conclusion that this is something he cannot explain. That same day, Hank and a friend went down, and one of the men went down to the river, trying to see if they could grab some water. They brought their rifles with them just in case. When all of a sudden they see this humongous creature up across the river about 50 yards from them. 8 yards from them. And all of a sudden the two of them start shooting their guns, and they described it as a large, well, like this, as you see in the back poster. The men started shooting at this unique creature. creature and began bark flying everywhere as they missed their targets. Later that day, the men returned, horrified at their terrible encounter. They tell the other men and about their experience with this strange creature. "We gotta get out of here," one of them, Hank says. "There's some scary mountain devil up here." "Now you men are acting crazy," the other said. "There's no mountain devil." And Hank says, "Yes, there is." Hank was one of the main men who was leading the group in the canyon. He says, "Yes, there is, and we better get out of here before it comes back." But their time had run out, and they decide to, as it's getting dark in the nearby, and the sun is shooting past the pines under the sun setting. Soon, that night, is when it all begins. The men settle in with their guns in their hands, ready to sleep off this experience. After what seems around midnight, the men start hearing noises like rocks being tossed at them from all directions, all over the roof of the cabin. The two, Hank and his other friend, began shooting at randomly in all directions, while the other men cower in the corner. And at one moment, Hank says, Stop firing. If we don't shoot, maybe they'll leave us alone." So Hank peeks out of the door of the cabin and sees not one, but a small group of these hairy ape-like creatures walking past the cabin. And that is when all hell breaks loose in the woods. The creatures start pounding the wall and bashing against the front door, trying to get in. One of the creatures managed to bash its arm through and grab an axe. But the men managed to fling it away from the creature and wrestled it out of its hand. The men then decide to hunker around, and one of them Hank shouts out loud, "Be gone, you mountain devils!" And all of a sudden it goes quiet. This cycle repeats for the next few hours, all through the night. The last few hours, everything went quiet. Yeah, and then Hank, or one of the men, started singing this eerie song, which is either him losing his sanity for a moment or a Bigfoot telepathic ability. This eerie song that sounded like it was from a horror movie. "If you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. If you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. And we'll all come home in the morning." Finally, after what seems forever, the men finally are able to come out of their cabin because dawn has now approached. The men decide to leave the cabin. And run out of that canyon as fast as they could. On the way out, they were again encountered by one of these Bigfoot-looking mountain devils. Well, several of the men shot at it repeatedly, until it fell into the nearby canyon. One of the men just told the others and convinced them to keep quiet as to evade ridicule. But finally, Hank could not help but share his story. He and the other men talked to a nearby marshal and explained to other people of what they had seen. And the Great Hunt of Ape Canyon 1924 had begun. However, none would be successive. The Bigfoot sightings continue to this day. But what exactly did those men see? Who knows? The only thing that is known is the great hunts that happened then have gone unsuccessful. So, I hope you all enjoyed this fantastic story and the editing. And don't forget this little baby. She needs her catnip. So I'm gonna hang up now. Say hi, Peaches. Hi. Wampus kid. With that out of the way, people, I hope you enjoyed the story. I will be releasing more edited videos like this from now on. I hope you enjoy. Like, comment, and subscribe. Click the little notification bell if you're new. And with that out of the way,